Well, it wasn't always pretty, but the Chiefs got themselves another win back on that field that they like being on. Let's talk about the Chiefs win over the Dolphins. If I hit the right overlay button. You know, that's the thing with live streams. I don't always do it right. Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. Glad you guys are here. Up and down day. We're going to talk about our notes, what we saw on this game, but glad you guys made it. This is RGR Football. I'm Ryan. We are going rogue. This is Dan Harms. How are you, Dan?
Oh, it's been a day. Needless to say, I was not surprised to see the game start out the way that it was, considering how my day went.
But you're safe and sound and all as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Eventually, we all got back to the right path, which is all that matters.
That is. At the end of the day, be at home and everybody's cool. Oh, man. A lot of friendly faces, a lot of members in the chat. Lovely to see all of you guys. We'll take a little bit here as we go through, and if you guys have something really important, we'll get to it. But we're going to run down what we saw kind of in the process that we saw it. And if you want to support the channel, the super chats are open. Those are always welcome. We thank you very much for all the support. That does help us do things, do new software, et cetera, et cetera. We have some things that, some software packages that I need to go learn, I think. You can always grab you some gear, like new Trooper stuff that's over in the RGR store. That helps as well. And tomorrow we're going to do the Q&A. So if you're new to the channel tonight, make sure you like and sub and hit the bell notification. But come back tomorrow night because we're going to answer your questions then. There might be a couple of things that steer us tonight. I'm sure Aaron Morrow will let us know, our fearless moderator. And other than that, my overall thing was this was an up and down day. A lot of little issues, right? But I was pretty happy to see two things. One, that they and I was only half joking when I tweeted this out. You know, that they got down 10 points and all of a sudden they're back to playoff form, right? That was a positive to go down and come back up again. Did you take it that way?
They got there much differently than in the past. Right. This was a weird start to the game. I didn't expect Mahomes. Granted, those balls were tipped, but they were inaccurate throws. He threw a ball to Travis Kelce on the screen where a defender was literally right in front of him, and he should have just thrown it in the ground.
Yeah.
Another one, he overthrew, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on that little dump, or not really dump off, but it was over the middle to him. He just overthrew him completely, and then again tipped instead of caught first time, and then caught for an interception. So they did find different ways to get down, and unfortunately, I do think this is going to hurt Patrick Mahomes' MVP case a little bit, just considering the timing of the interception game. I know a lot of people are going to like that, but if you consider what Aaron Rodgers is doing, not throwing picks, winning games still, granted, I would say that Mahomes throwing picks, 3 picks in a game, still winning, kind of levels that out a little bit, but
I think on the overall, though, I think most of the voters are going to say it's one game, it's an aberration, Now, if he comes back and throws another one next week, bigger deal, right?
Exactly. And the game that Aaron Rodgers didn't show up in, they got absolutely blown out. Like It was not even a game, and that doesn't happen to the Chiefs. So that's kind of what I'm saying is like it'll probably even itself out. But
I'm with you that it should be a factor.
Yeah.
But everybody's had something go wrong this year. Russ, Kyler hit a soft streak, that blowout. You're right. So.
He still threw for 400 yards.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Maximal, thanks for your sticker. We appreciate it.
3 picks and threw for 400 yards.
Well, that's the thing. If you guys haven't listened to the Locked On podcast, it's out now. We recorded it post game, and that's what we kept going back and forth about. Was it was great, but it was his worst game ever, and they won and scored 33 points.
Yeah,
and that's just saying the worst game ever in terms of like what he personally did in terms of the interception versus touchdowns, et cetera, et cetera. So, Daryl Sparks, thank you for yours very much as well. Gooch, you're back now. Gooch,
what's going on?
This is how it's going to work, folks. Gooch and I are going to do our monthly one-on-one here this week sometime. That's what you get when you're an elite member. When you're other levels of the membership, you get to do the streams and the Zoom meetings with us so that you can be in the chat room. We do those on Tuesday nights. So Tuesday is member day. That's basically the way that it's working out. The communication system doesn't work that well in terms of trying to put it in the community. So if you are one of the members, Tuesday night, 6:30, that's what we're looking for. I'm sorry, 7:30, 6:30 my time.
Yeah.
7:30 Central. That's going to be member period. It's not going to happen this week because I've got a family thing that I've got to deal with one of my children. So that's going to be a little bit off. But hey, it is what it is. But just everybody remember that. I'm going to say this in pretty much every video this week. Tuesdays is the thing for members. Yeah. Now, could you have a good point? Yeah, differential is more than just the interceptions. There was the fumble, and the differential pays off. But at this point, until that last drive, especially, you got the turnover from Matthew. You were able to take care of business. It was a little touch and go there at the end, but for the most part, it felt like this game was not as close as the score ended up showing it.
Exactly, and I'm gonna die on this hill. If Mahomes doesn't underthrow him by a little tiny bit, they don't even end up scoring more than what they had. I do not believe that the Dolphins had anything left in the tank if the Chiefs would have put up 37 points on them at that point. I think the game would have been over and my prediction would have come true and I would have been able to laugh at everybody. But unfortunately, that's not how this works.
No,
I ended up being wrong about that. But the one thing that I was right about are the sacks. Mm-hmm. They came back this week. They had 4 sacks in this game, and funny enough, when the sacks went away, so did the defensive production. They went down and scored touchdowns after they stopped getting the sacks. So kind of shows you that when the team can get some pressure and not necessarily always have to rush 7, 5, 6 guys to do it, they're going to be way better off, especially in the postseason. They just got to find ways to get that continuing. And one of the ways they can probably do that is guys like Mike Dana. What did you think of Mike Dana in this game?
I wrote it down in my notes. Dan's going to take that play, so I don't get to do it.
Love it.
Yeah, I thought, and it wasn't just the sack. It wasn't just. I have multiple notes here on today's game that he was putting out. He was setting the edge. He was getting good pursuit, even if he wasn't getting home.
Yeah.
And Tano Passanio played well as well. And this was not. Yes, we talked about these were rookie tackles. That's absolutely true, but they still were able to dominate them and overall attack the offensive line. And good Lord, tell me that wasn't full when you started. Dan's drinking barley wine tonight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm just drinking. Oh, I want to show you guys this because this is a friend of mine's brewery. This is Wibby Brewing out of Boulder. They just won a GABF for this Vienna lager. This is a gold medal beer, and I'm happy to share it with you if you can get it. It's called Wibby, WIBBY. Go grab that.
Yes, it was full.
Okay, then we're going to get to this before you start to lose it.
I'm a big guy. It takes a little while to get to me.
Dave, thank you for your super sticker. And the overall, I thought that the whole defensive front took it up a notch.
Yeah.
Yes, you saw Frank get home, but I thought I saw a couple of other plays where Frank had better pass rush this week than last. Chris Jones, obviously, first time since 2016 with a safety for this team. Yeah. That's a big deal. And I think that goes back to show that it's not just a play-per-play basis. You got to make the big plays, and they were able to do it today.
Yeah, Frank Clark showed much better explosion in his spin move than he has basically the entire season. And I think that comes back to being in a game with a good team. The Dolphins are a very good team. And granted, I think that the Chiefs should have made them look like a bad team because they were about to. And you can kind of see what I was talking about in terms of Spags making Tua a little bit confused. And he did adjust to that in terms of when he saw the pressure coming, he finally started to get the ball out quicker and a little bit more accurately. Earlier in the game, he was missing guys left. He was missing them right. He was missing them down. He finally honed that in a little bit, and he was started hitting those quicker throws, which is what you count on as a defensive coordinator if you're going to rush a bunch. Hopefully that throw isn't as accurate so you guys don't have to be 100% on the ball. But again, we're seeing when they're blitzing all these times and he knew Tua was going to throw the ball quickly. Why wasn't everyone impressed?
Yeah.
Like that's the one confusing part. When you have a guy 7 yards off the line of scrimmage and you're blitzing 6 guys probably, or two linebackers, and everyone pretty much has to man up, why are they not impressed?
Well, and that's the thing, because if you get beat right at the snap, they figure it's coming out quick, and maybe they're not sure that their pass rush is going to get there quickly enough. So it's a little too conservative for me. I agree with you. I would have pressed them as well. I think that's always the answer in those situations. Nipper Girl, thank you for yours. We always appreciate that very much. That said, I thought the call was pretty solid. It was up and down in their performance. Breland missed that one tackle that was just god awful.
I couldn't believe that. I watched it. I'm like, was that Breland?
Yeah. And then he came back with 3 PBUs. Like there were 9 PBUs in this game. The secondary was putting out, and one was a batted ball at the line. But other than that, the secondary was putting out. And I felt that was, again, a step up, an encouraging thing, especially on a day when Patrick's giving the ball away, which is so rare for this team.
Real rare. Like that just kind of shows you, like, Patrick Mahomes gave the football away 3 times. They had a fumble. Like, Gooch was pointing out earlier, like they set the Dolphins up to win this game, like early. The Dolphins had their opportunity to go up by 20 points in this game, and it didn't happen. And if you don't do that, it's 100% going to flip. And that the Chiefs did exactly that. They flipped the script on them, and they went up by 20 points.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. And it shows that the defense, as much as we can complain about them lately, they can pick up the slack when they have to. Yeah. And that's what they had to do. We saw good play out of Fenton in relief. We saw Snead make up some plays. Snead almost got his 17th almost interception today. I'm just waiting for those to pay off.
He's always around the football.
For a guy who didn't practice on Friday and made everybody panic that he wasn't going to play, Tyron's hip was fine, and he put in a good game. Well. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Gooch, you got a good point. Is it mirrors Willie Gay flashing, and Snead's a very capable tackler? Yeah. He is. He's missed 2 tackles on the season now, Snead. And here's the thing.
The first week, right? It was like his very first game.
Exactly. First game as a pro. You got to expect that. I will tell you this, and you bring up a very good point, Brian. Finally, Spags put Willie out there with Hitchens in the big nickel, and it worked for the most part. There were a couple of passes. I don't think he was out there when the, PI string came along.
I don't think he played much at all when they were trailing. I think it was just Hitchens, Sorensen, and Neiman. I think that was exclusively the linebackers that were on the field that I remember.
Yeah. And we didn't see anything new. I think we all still feel the same. I don't want to speak for you, Dan, but I clearly still feel it should be Willie and Hitch in the nickel at all times, period, done deal.
Probably. And I mean, I made a tweet earlier in the week about how Sorensen's probably going to see more snaps at linebacker. And when they're down in the up in the game and they're trying to come back, they're going to put who they feel is comfortable, except Sorensen still can't cover tight ends, so I'm not sure how he's comfortable out there. You want to don't put him one-on-one on Mike Gesicki. Just don't do it.
Well, and that's the thing. So they hit the edges early in the run game. They got a little bit of traction. It didn't end up working out. I didn't think they did enough, but at least they listened to what we said last week and got out to the edges of the run game. It truly did boil down, just like we thought, to the tight ends, though. And I will give Mike Gesicki a lot of credit, because even though I had a respect for his game, he was able to trade punches with Travis Kelce's performance for a lot of that ball game.
Yeah, and granted, I think that Thornhill was a half second behind on that touchdown throw. That should have been a pick, and I think that he may have misread it just a tiny bit, or he was just a little bit too far outside of the play to actually get there, because that ball went right through his hands. If he's there a half second earlier, that's an interception. So that much I'll give him, because the hands are right there, and Gesicki make a great play for the touchdown. Other than the first drive that they scored on in that last drive, he was almost a non-factor in this game. He had like 1 or 2 plays where he was, he was manned up on Sorensen. So I would understand throwing them the ball all the time in that situation. But, I think they did a pretty decent job, especially with the timing of the blitzes, to force Tua to make a decision before the snap and throw it where he thought the receiver would be open. And they did, like I said, a good job of managing that early in the game, especially in the second and third quarters when the Chiefs were, throwing touchdowns and doing whatever they wanted to on offense. I mean, this was a 2-quarter game, and the Chiefs made sure that there was almost no actual chance of the Dolphins coming back. So, outside of the coaching staff, I'm going to tell you guys something that's going to hurt your feelings, okay? They don't care how stressful your Sunday is. They don't care, because they know that they can win close games, and when they're up 30-10, 30-17, they are going to 100% take the foot off the gas, because they do not care. And I apologize. It's stressful for me too. I know it's stressful for all of the fans, but they don't care. They just don't care.
It's the truth. Dave, I agree with you. That could be a fractured collarbone pretty easily. Info, when Wiz does play, he'll be a guard. He will not be at center. Let's see. Jimmy's. No, I didn't notice that part. Driving, you're killing me here, dude. I am worried about the Saints defense somewhat, yes. And you are driving. Don't type when you're driving. Oh, it makes me nervous. The Saints defense is very good too. I know they didn't play as well today, and a running quarterback. I think it's not knowing what to expect from Hurts, and his legs were great today.
Yeah, he ran for over 100 yards in that game. So
yeah, did he?
Yeah, he ran for over 100 yards.
I didn't get to that point, but yeah, I think that's a big difference maker. And so, yeah, I still respect them quite a bit. This is going to be another very difficult game. Mahomes even talked about it post game, and he's already on to thinking about what he has to face. So, Max Jones, thank you very much. You. We will do everything that we can, my friend. Gooch, good to see. Say you have a very good point.
Hurdle, man.
Yeah,
that hurdle.
I mean, he had that big stiff arm last week, the hurdle this week. He's in position.
Blocks last week that were just he was mowing guys over.
Yeah, for sure.
He's back.
And I like that they're kind of ramping up. Like, this is later than last year, but if they can take this a step forward again, knock down the mistakes again, I feel like that'll be another step forward towards the playoffs. And if they just waited a couple extra games this season versus last, I can live with it.
Well, you know what? They didn't have to. That's the thing that I've been trying to say is I feel like teams are going to be trying to take Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill away, but consistently they don't do it. They didn't, Tyreek got behind the defense a few times. They got him involved in the run game, had a 32-yard touchdown run, and they still could not stop Travis Kelce. 136 yards, a touchdown. When Mahomes does not have to worry so much about the defenses taking away Hill and Kelce, I mean, he doesn't have to necessarily go to Watkins and Hardman and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We saw him go to Clyde Edwards-Helaire early in the game because they were taking away Hill. He didn't have a target up until that touchdown run, and then after that is when he really started to take off. So when you start to open things up with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and then Sammy Watkins had that big play, that's what's going to take defensive attention away from Tyreek Hill for that split second, and then he beats you for a bomb. So that they don't necessarily have to always get guys like Sammy Watkins over 100 yards, which I would have liked to see. But then again, they didn't necessarily do a great job of taking away Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. So we're just going to have to kind of live with them popping off, which I'm pretty okay with.
Yeah, whether it's Travis or Sammy doesn't really bother me. I expected them to do a better job on Travis, so I thought Sammy would have the bigger day. We talked about in the game plan too. And at the end of the day, Hardman up and down as well. There was a lot of players up and down today, and I'm just not sure where I stand on him now. I'm less confident on his career arc than I was last year.
Yeah.
But that return was impressive.
Yeah.
And if that's what it takes to spark him, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, he's such an interesting player because I thought that he came in the league, doesn't necessarily have the frame to put on more weight and play as effectively at his high speed like Tyreek Hill does. We've talked about this in the past about their differences in terms of their frame and what we feel like they can put weight on. And Hardman feels more like he's going to stay roughly around this type of frame for the rest of his career, maybe add 10 pounds on, which would be helpful for him. But the one thing that really bothered me was that fumble, because you watched all that game, the Dolphins were consistently coming in behind and late and throwing hands at the football. Yeah. You know that mentally going into every play. So that's a mental lapse, and I'm not too comfortable with that happening, especially when you're continuing to turn the ball over in Miami zone. They did it every single time, and that's kind of an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. When you know it's coming and you don't take the steps to keep it tight, that is a problem. I've thought the exact same thing. Like, they're going to punch at it.
They've been doing it all game.
Yeah, it's not new. Chris Kesey, thank you very much. Worried. I thought this was a positive step, so I'm less worried than I was last week.
They 100% took the foot off the gas. I mean, they were still blitzing when they were up, but I mean, they weren't just playing underneath coverage the whole time, and I'm not too worried about it. We saw them at their peak right in this game in that second and third quarter, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even parts of the first.
Eric, you're right. I saw the same thing that
Yeah.
Breeze may not play. I think that changes. I think this loss that they suffered today motivates Breeze, and I think he'll be back out.
I don't believe so. I think he is too injured, and I think the doctors aren't going to let him play.
Okay, I hope so for his own health's sake.
Yeah, because he's got
he can hide it all. He will.
Ribs. You can't really play through that many. If he plays through 11 fractured ribs and they win the game, I'll call it. I'm wrong. 100% I'm wrong.
Right?
You have nothing. I got nothing, guys.
Yeah. Is there an answer to that? No.
What do you do? I played through 11 fractured ribs.
Oh, brother Rick, thank you for saying it. So we don't have to, because
Andy don't care.
we could not agree with you more. And Andy just
I can't. Okay, so I'm gonna get something off my chest, guys. 3rd and 1. You should never, with this offensive line, run up the middle ever. Don't do inside zone. Don't do halfback dive. Do anything else, because they cannot get push. Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire almost got the first down because he is that physical of a runner, and he was trying to carry guys over the line of scrimmage. Like, that's what he was trying to do, because he was busy having to carry guys over the line of scrimmage. You cannot run. You can't get 1 yard with this offensive line when the defense knows you're going to run it. You can't.
And it's very evident, because their first red zone trip, it was 2 straight passes.
Yep.
I mean, that tells you all you need to know. And yet they have the ability to change that if they want. They have personnel they can switch out. The only one that concerns me right now is Mike Remmers, because I'm not sure Mitch is ready. I'm not sure they have plans for Mitch to be ready until the postseason.
They've kept that really close to the chest, and I think that they've just been letting Mitch rest for the playoffs. But this might change some things, and maybe they get him in a little bit earlier than they were planning. Who knows if he's even fully healthy? Like, we don't actually know what's going on with that situation, because they're just kind of letting ride out because Remmers has been, above average.
Yeah. Eric, we'll talk about this in depth next week, but thank you for the super chat. Not next week. Tomorrow night is what I meant. But thank you for the super chat. And I think you got to give the rookie a little bit of a feed. You can't completely rest him. He's got to have a kind of a rhythm, you know what I mean? But I do think that this should be a 3-headed monster. I like a couple of the Lev runs, especially on the inside. I thought he ran decently inside today. I didn't see Daryl get a carry. I might have missed that.
He didn't get one.
Okay. But we know that he can as well. So I'm good with that. But you do want to get Clyde in a rhythm outside. And quite frankly, he looked really good on that little scoot pass out of the backfield. I think they got to emphasize that a little bit more, get him a little more used to it.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier in the game. You have passes to Watkins, and you have passes to Clyde Edwards-Helaire that kind of forced the defense to change some things up in terms of how they were protecting. And that's when you saw Travis Kelce start getting more targets and Tyreek Hill getting more targets. So, and I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire should be more involved in the pass game. I think he's shown multiple times that one that was taken away off a penalty against the Chargers will always be what Pete Clyde Edwards-Helaire is. He can get contested balls down the field against linebackers. Like, he can do that consistently. So I think that they're just kind of waiting it out. We saw a glimpse of that today.
Yeah, I agree. And you don't want to give too much away, but you don't want to leave it get too stale. Like, it's a balancing act, really. And I think that's what it comes down to.
When it comes to the playoffs, teams will be more apt to try and take away Kelce and Hill. And that's when you're going to be able to unleash guys like Sammy Watkins, who's coming on, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's shown flashes out of the backfield.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Gooch agrees. He was yelling at Aaron. That's funny. I should see you two yelling at Twitter at the time. I can't type fast enough to be on Twitter during the game very much, so it's terrible. Daryl Sparks.
Man, that was a phenomenal catch.
Yeah,
that was the best catch of the season.
Yeah,
guy over him, he jumps, he relocates it, and he adjusts. It's great. It was great.
It was all hands. It was beautiful. Adam, I would love to see this happen. It never will.
Offensive Player of the Year, 100%.
Yes. MVP. Nah, that's a quarterback award. Somebody else just had something too. I'm sorry. I'm scrolling, and that never makes it easy. Jimmy, you're right. Making fajitas with Vegeta. I like that. Heck, that might be the title of the brand new cooking show coming your way from Schwartz and Schwartz Brothers.
You never know, man.
I would love to see Jeff go on there with him, because Mitch is like so calm and, hey, this is how you chop the onions and get them to the right. And Jeff would be like, you gotta chop them harder.
They're very different people.
that's in my head. Sorry, folks. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the way that the team itself functioned. Not just one side of the ball, but both sides trying to support each other. I didn't feel like there was anything that we didn't know going in, and I'm really hopeful that from this point forward, I don't know what the status is of Ward, but I liked it when Snead and Fent were on the same field together with Breland. And quite frankly, I hope after watching the film that House and Spags like what they saw from Willie Gay as much as I did.
Yeah, I mean, I still am looking forward to seeing the snap count because I think that him and Sorensen and linebacker will have roughly the same snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of what I had anticipated.
Yeah.
After seeing that he was going to start, that's kind of where I had my mind set up as. But I actually really enjoyed this game. I thought it was outside of the first quarter when I was really, really mad at the world and they were throwing interceptions. I finally got my head on straight and I enjoyed this game. And when it came to the fourth quarter, after I saw the interception, I'm like, they're going to let the foot get the foot off the gas. Like I knew that was going to happen. And when you watch this team at its peak, you just saw a second quarter and a third quarter where the Dolphins could not do anything to stop this team. And that's kind of the point of this whole season is the Chiefs have had spurts of showing you how dominant they are. And then they just kind of like, we don't need to continue to be that dominant in the fourth quarter. And
was it second and fourth today? Because wasn't the third quarter when they had like 17 yards or something?
No, that was the beginning of the fourth quarter because they came out. They immediately scored a touchdown. That was that bomb to Tyreek Hill they threw, and then they had the punt return touchdown in the third quarter too. So they turned it on in the second and third quarters, but then they were just like, we don't need to score anymore. And the simple fact of the matter is that the Dolphins had their opportunity in the first quarter. They didn't take it, and that will burn you every time against this team.
You're absolutely right. Jacob, no snap counts yet. We'll get those likely tomorrow. Tuesday, we'll probably review those in general on the podcast. And then I have something really special for you guys on Tuesday night. So we have tonight, we have tomorrow night's Q&A. And then Therese Paylor is going to sit down with me, and I will have that video for you Tuesday night. Then we'll do stats on like we normally do on Wednesday, and Dan will have film on Thursday. But Trez, very eye-opening conversation as he always is when we sit down. So I think you guys are going to dig this. That said, we got one more super chat. I want to make sure we hit that, and then we'll call it a night, and we can all go see what happens with the Steelers. Andy, sleepwalking through the season, the beast will awaken in the playoffs. You know, as always, Gooch, thank you for all the support.
Yeah,
and we do need to hook up with that one-on-one this week. But yeah, I do agree with you. Like, it's pulling out just enough stops, like Dan said, enough to get a comfortable lead and then pull it back so you're not putting, like we've seen from the Raiders, where everything went into those games against the Chiefs and they can't beat another soul.
Literally something I tweeted out earlier today.
Oh, really?
About an hour and a half ago. I'm like, everyone needs to remember the Raiders' goal this year was to compete with the Chiefs. They emptied the bag in 2 games against the Chiefs, and they have been non-existent basically since then. They just barely beat the Jets last week. They get blown out by the Falcons. They get blown up by the Colts. They're not there yet. They just wanted to compete with this team.
Yeah.
That's all the goal was this year.
And that thing that teams take on the personality of their coach, they certainly do that. And that is Gruden competing against Andy, and I'm all for that. Aaron, my wife does that sometimes too, usually after he repeats what I just told her on the couch. But
I do the exact same thing, and it's funny. My wife does it all the time, and I'll be sitting there, I'm talking about what's happening, and then Tony Romo will come on and say the same thing, and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I know what football is. Like, I'm watching."
You got to feed into my head. It's awesome. But Dan, thanks for the time tonight, and thank you all here for being here tonight. So I know the schedule's a little bit off, but you know it is what it is. When we can do this and have a little time instead of being so rushed, it always works out. Tomorrow night, the Q&A, it will be much longer, and we'll get into all your questions, especially after we see the snap count. So, Dan, I hope your night is better, and I'm sure that it will be. And thank you all.
Oh, it's better. I promise you that.
Okay. So time to go before Dan starts talking. Folks, I hope you all have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good one.